Hey, this is Dan with Guardian Mold Prevent. I wanted to look at a property today that's located in Chicago, Illinois. This particular property is a bank-owned property. It was foreclosed, and the bank now owns it. As you can see, some moisture has gotten into the basement. This is actually a drywalled wall in the basement. There's no baseboard here on the wall, but moisture got in, the drywall got wet, the drywall wicked the moisture up the wall, and consequently there is mold growth here. Obviously this drywall will need to come out in order to rectify the problem in this particular area. Now I want to look at another section of the basement that actually has a totally different problem. This particular area of the basement has plaster on the walls. You can see that there's been moisture in the area, condensation for certain, and there's mold growth that's developed. Some of the framing here is moldy as well, and you can see in some areas the framing is even rotted. And the unique thing about this particular room is that the ceiling is actually made of plaster, and you'll be able to see here that there's a consistent pattern, or there's consistent mold growth on the ceiling. Now this is most likely from either a humidity issue in the basement or some condensation that's developed because of temperature differentials. It probably does not stem from an actual water leak that came from above, because in those instances you would most likely find that the mold growth would be isolated to a specific area as opposed to consistent across the entire plaster ceiling. So it's consistent with the wall as well, and it looks like there was just a humidity or a condensation problem in this area of the house. Now the next area of the house we want to look at actually has paneling on the wall. The one thing that I wanted to make note of, or the reason I want to show this particular clip, is that as you can see, it only appears that there's a 1 inch to 2 inch stain at the bottom of this sheet of paneling. This is under the front porch of a brick bungalow in the city. But if we were to peel this paneling back and expose the actual sheet of drywall that they laid that paneling over, you would find that the 1 or 2 inch stain on the paneling actually translates to a far greater amount of mold growing behind there, because the moisture gets trapped between the two surfaces and then obviously develops. Now this last area of the home we're going to look at is actually ceiling in a rear porch off the main level. It's a plaster ceiling. You can see obviously that there's some moisture getting in. The homeowner then at some point put a drop ceiling in the rear of the house, and you can see here that the actual drop ceiling is also wet and stained. Now I wanted to take a look at a couple of things on the exterior of the home. On this particular clip you'll be able to see that the along the rear of the house, the soil line or the grade of the ground is actually above the top of the foundation. So what happens here is that because the ground is not pitched away from the house and the grade is above the foundation, it essentially invites moisture to come in, and it gets in over the top of the foundation wall and then ends up seeping into the basement. The last area on the exterior of the home that I wanted to look at is actually the gangway between the subject house we're looking at and the next door neighbor. As you can see along the sidewalk here, it's hard to tell which way the sidewalks are pitched, but the sidewalk along the house that has the mold growth is actually pitched back towards the house. So when moisture gets in there and it rains, the water runs along the actual foundation wall on the exterior and finds any voids or breaches that it can, and it will get down into the basement behind the walls, and obviously if it gets to the bottom, it will create a mold growth issue.